Okay, my name's Robert Neale. I live in a small market town just outside Swindon called Highworth. 2 children, 6 and 9. Married, happily married, have been for 12 years. Okay, it's quite an interesting story really. I've been involved in business ever since really I left college, thanks to my parents who always had their own business right throughout my childhood. I joined their business. We did various different businesses based around the transport industry. Eventually we ended up with a very successful self-storage company. It also gave me experience of doing various different processes that are now becoming very useful to me. We did exporting furniture all over the world, importing various bits and pieces. So that was skills learned then that are now paying dividends. Yeah, they're really helping me out. I was brewing at home. In fact, even before I was brewing at home, I started to get very interested in cooking and preparing food. So not just cooking, we were smoking meats at home, smoking fish at home, curing various different products, and it led from a desire to be able to make anything that we were eating, anything that we were consuming from scratch. Few people have been quite influential. At about the same time I was becoming interested in those sort of things, Hugh Fearnley-Whittenstall started doing a few of his first programmes, A Cook on the Wild Side and the whole River Cottage series, and I found it really inspiring. And I came across this article on a site called Self-Sufficientish, which kind of speaks for itself, but about making beer from foraged hops. And so I tried to go out and forage some hops, and actually realised that it was the wrong time of year, so I couldn't forage the hops. So I went to my local homebrew shop and bought the ingredients and started. That was the very first startings of me brewing from home. I'm 42 now, so it was about 12 years ago, I guess. So yeah, it actually fitted in with the time when I moved into the house that we're in presently, which is an old cottage with a huge back garden. So at the same time as the brewing the beer, the other food interests really took hold as well. We had sheep in the garden. We brought up from lambs. We had chickens. We had a fat local fox that got fatter on our chickens. So we kind of learnt a lot about that. I brew as much as I possibly can. I'm a family man who's running a business. My wife also has her own business as well, so I brew as much as I can. I try to brew at least once a month, and I try to brew with the new ingredients that we've got coming in. We now have 80 odd different varieties of hops and about the same of malt, so I'm yet to brew with everything, but I'm giving it a good go. As I said, every brew's an experiment, and I made an NE IPA that tasted so vile after a couple of days in the fermenter that I was going to throw it, but I stuck with it, and I've let it ferment out, and I cold crushed it for about 3 weeks, and I didn't dry hop it at all. Because I wasn't going to waste any more hops on it, because I thought it was going to be drain fodder. So that's in the fermenter at the moment, and actually it's turned out really good. I would always say use the best yeast that's available for the actual beer that you're drinking. So actually, quality wise on the final product, I don't believe that there's too much difference between a liquid yeast and a dry yeast. There are big differences in having to use the right amount of yeast and fermenting at the right temperature for style, but actually the difference between liquid and dry yeast as a quality for the final product, I don't believe there is any. It would probably be a bottle of Orval, but not just any bottle of Orval. It has to be old. I can't. The fresher ones, although it's very nice beer, I prefer them when they've been aged for a while, and that has been my all-time favourite beer that I've ever drunk. It's absolutely transformed from today to when we first started in 2010. When we started, it was very much about, well, two things. It was about brewing at home because you couldn't buy the beer that you wanted to be able to drink. So even then, people were wanting more hop-forward beers that were very difficult to get hold of. And also it was a lot about people were brewing at home so that they could save some money. It was still actually cheaper to brew at home than it was to go to the supermarket and buy beer. The customer basis has got a lot younger. There's far more younger guys that are into, shall we say, craft beer, making craft beer and drinking commercial craft beer as well. That's where the interest comes in. So it's been a complete wholesale change, and now people are treating it as a hobby, as any other that they're willing to invest time and money into. They're not doing it because they can save money. They're doing it because that's a hobby that they have that's now fashionable. My heart has always been in the actual raw product and the ingredients, so that's where my real strong interest comes from. So I have travelled and I go to exhibitions and meetings all over Europe, really, to be able to find the latest ingredients that are coming in from all over the world, but also some of the latest UK ingredients as well, some of the new range of British hops that are available that are starting to add, albeit subtle, but are starting to add some of the more fruity flavours that customers are now demanding, and that's the flavours that they're getting from the New Zealand, New World, and American hops. Equipment wise, we're in a time that we've never really seen before, of being able to buy off the shelf equipment, from conical fermenters, being able to buy a conical fermenter at a justifiable price a couple of years ago, to now being able to buy a fully temperature controlled conical fermenter with all the bells and whistles. It's been an amazing couple of years for the homebrew market. The New England IPA style of beer was pretty much, it's been around for quite a long time with brewers in the States. I think Trillium were one of the ones that really, they were doing it before anyone realised that that's what they were trying to do. I think it's a tremendous style, and I think that there's a massive distance that style of beer can still go. I don't think we've seen anything like where that style is going to end up, and that's really very exciting. I think that we have coming out very shortly a new range to the homebrewer, a new range of dried souring agents, kettle souring agents, that actually means that a homebrewer can produce a sour beer at home with no particularly special equipment, and they can do it very quickly. So I think that will be a big development in the homebrew market. Strangest order. Well, we do have there's a problem with some smaller distilleries which are actually becoming more popular now. They want to use heavily peated malt. Well, because of the way that the maltsters mill their malt, they're unable to clean them sufficiently. So when they're milling heavily, or if they chose to mill heavily peated malt, they can't get the smell back out of the malt mill. So we have a distillery who get us to crush a ton of heavily peated malt all in one go. So that's a bit of an odd one. The lads, the guys that are in the milling room, hate doing it because it stinks, and it's kind of that wet bonfire type smell rather than the beautiful aromatic of the standard smoked malts that we do. We're always looking for other products to sell, and so yes, we're definitely have got new areas that we're looking into. We have recognised very, very quickly that our customers are also have other interests in the food and drink lifestyle. So they're also barbecuing, they're smoking, they're drinking coffee, they're curing foods at home. So we are actively looking at providing, either linking up with other companies that are providing those services or starting to offer those services in-house. We've already started with some of the barbecue charcoal that we're selling. We're looking at locally sourcing barbecue charcoal for the large amount of people that are using decent quality charcoal at home. So yeah, we hope to do more of that. It's another passion of mine, and that's where I would like to push the business into. Yeah, I do flick through some of the videos. It never ceases to amaze me, people's ingenuity and the personality of someone that can sit down in front of the camera on their own with a bottle of beer, and the descriptors that they can muster up for people's beer, and the sheer joy that seems to come from having beer mail, cracking that beer open and saying thanks to the person that's actually brewed it on camera. Only that I think what they're doing is absolutely fantastic. Keep doing what they're doing and promote it as much as possible. Like I say, you see the joy on the people's faces when they're face to camera, drinking someone else's beer. I think there's huge mileage in that, and I think that will continue to expand. So good on you.